What's up, anime fans? It's your boy, Raysean from the Raysean Gadson Anime Podcast, or RGAP for short. And on today's episode, we're interviewing a special guest, learning more about your favorite anime characters and the industry of voice acting as a whole, and also about their personal lives while diving into some interesting anime discussions. If that sounds interesting to you, then sit back and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're watching.
I told you to stop moving around so much! Your attack actually nicked me a little. What's up? You look pretty surprised. Yammy Rialgo, Espada number 0. None of those other Espadas you fought before me even come close to being as strong as I am.
Violates our agreement. You want to go back to jail, Bopopo? Breaking the taboo warrants severe punishment. Or did I not tell him that? Did that idiot think I wouldn't kill him? I don't care who you give the win to. So just give it to one of the guys who's standing in the back.
Naruto, switch with me. There's something I want to say to him. Sorry, but your words don't apply to this guy. The fourth entrusted him with me, and Naruto's befriended me now. The fourth Hokage sealed me inside Naruto as a force to help take you.
Before we get started, I just wanted to allow my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves, basically tell everybody who you are and what you do, and also tell us your top 2 favorite voice actors and why.
Okay, my name is Paul St. Peter. I am a voice actor from Los Angeles. My top 2 voice actors, my favorites, well, that would be Steve Bloom and I would have to say Wendy Lee.
Wendy Lee. Okay, that's pretty cool picks right there.
Well, I've known Wendy for about 40 years and Steve Bloom for about 20 plus, 25. So been around. We got some mileage between us.
Are there certain roles you like from them, or just like the way they go about acting? Or
I like their acting and their directing. I like Steve Bloom's style overall as an actor.
okay.
The roles he's done have really lent themselves to being who he is. It's an understated performance. It's nothing over the top. Wendy Lee, as a director and as an actor, very, very effective in both roles. I've known her since Robotech. That was my very first series. So that was in 1985. And we've worked together so many times. She's directed me. We've also worked as actors on the same series before. Also a member of Cowboy Bebop, where she was Faye.
Oh, okay, that's pretty dope.
Oh yeah, so they're again along the lines of their performances and knowing them as long as I have, the 2 of my favorites.
Okay, those some good picks. For my top 2 picks that I chose 2 actors that are mainly known for their live actions, but they do a lot of great voiceovers or voice acting.
Me, you know, it's,
huh?
one of them should be me anyway. But
for sure. I love all your work.
I get it. It's all right.
For my first one, I had to choose my favorite, Jack Black. I think he's amazing as Po in Kung Fu Panda. He kills it. And if you've seen the new Mario movie, he kills it as Bowser. The energy that Jack Black brings into every role is just phenomenal. He really brings that character to life.
He's a maniac, plain and simple. You know, he really is.
Oh, for sure.
The way every actor should be.
He really, you can tell he loves what he does. And I think he goes for the parts that he can really enjoy. You know what I mean? He doesn't play anything that you're like, that doesn't make sense for Jack Black. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen that way too many times. They pick someone because of their name and they're ill-suited, just as an actor on the when they put him on camera. And he shouldn't be doing that role, or on stage for that matter. But who knows their name? Maybe they just wanted to do the project so badly, you know.
Yeah. And for my second one, I chose Regina King. She plays both Riley and Huey in the Boondocks. I don't know if you've seen the show, but she is phenomenal.
Yeah. Okay.
I love the fact that because I was doing more of a deep dive into the show and how they recorded it, and they were talking about there were certain scenes where she was able to play both Huey and Riley at the same time. And I personally don't know how hard that is to do as a voice actor. You probably be able to speak on that more, but that to me seems like that would be super hard to do.
Yeah, it's hard to do. I've done that sort of thing before. I was using radically different voices, so it was easy to switch from one to the other. The tougher part is if you're going to have to lip sync. What we do as dubbers doing animation is not lip syncing per se. Okay, that's when you're doing live action English to English. You have to lip sync perfectly. In animation, of course, we know it's flap, 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 flap. The key is you need to start and begin at the right times. So doing that, in addition to playing the characters, in addition to switching voices back and forth, that is a very challenging thing to do. I have done it before. Certainly it's not an easy thing to do, I can promise you that. But just the challenges for you as an actor, maintaining the relationship between the two characters and what's going on within the scene. What is going on in the storyline, you see. So a lot of times you have to maintain your part in the plot with the way the story arc goes. And so it can't just be, doing two different voices talking to each other. There has to be also the acting element, which is always part of the voiceover process, and the part that everyone forgets. They always ask, well, how hard could it be? I'm just standing in front of a microphone. That's the hardest acting you can do because you don't have any props and you don't have another actor to talk to. I'm by myself in the booth. And so I'm often the first one recording. So I don't even get to react off of the other actor's read. The director tells me what's going on, and I look at the script, I look at the lines of dialogue, and I might make my creative choices from there. Those are hard things to do, to become, to be descriptive, to be convincing, to really sound like you are maintaining a conversation with someone. And again, you haven't heard anything yet. You're the first one to speak. Very challenging.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Because I can only imagine, especially if you're the first person to speak, because then it's like, I hope what I've done is good because you are going all after me, and then you go back and you see it, and you're like, dang, I would have done this differently if I would have known she would have did that. You know what I mean? So I can know that could be a conundrum.
Sure. A lot of that is up to the director, too. The director has to make sure that the choices I make as the first person recording are going to fit into the storyline, and the other actor can react as he or she will. Okay. So the director needs to make sure to keep that, all in control too. Now, beyond that, if we have a creative choice that still serves the storyline, but it does something different or fun or whatever, cool, as the actor within the scene, that's great too. And sometimes you will react in a way that they didn't expect, but it happens to fit the storyline, and it's funnier or more moving or whatever than they had anticipated.
For sure, for sure. For our next segment, I wanted to ask you basically, what have you recently been watching lately in terms of movies or anime or TV shows, or if you play games?
Well, games-wise, I play a very old turn-based game called Deadlock. It's from a company that was called Accolade, which probably was gone before you were born. This game came out in 1999. I have the original disc I bought, and I'm still playing it. And it's, again, a turn-based game. So nobody's heard of it. It still intrigues me, fascinates me, draws me back to it all the time. And there is an online version that you can actually download and play. Again, it's called Deadlock. So I haven't investigated that because my disc is working fine, and I have a feeling that there will be changes in the game that I will not appreciate. But as long as the disc is good, I'm going to keep on playing that. Movies, TV, etc. that I've been watching. I'm rewatching the entire season, or 6 seasons, I should say, of Vikings from the History Channel.
Okay, that sounds
I'm,
interesting.
yeah, I'm a major history buff. I always have been. Always loved that Norse history. I love about the part where they invaded England and basically changed what we know as law and culture and language into what became later on English. They brought many new words. These are people that brought the notion of towns to Ireland. The Irish didn't really have a town, and when the Norsemen came there, that's what they brought. That's the way they organized things, and that's the way the Irish sort of learned that mode of sort of living. You might say. Let me angle my camera a little better here. Okay, that's better. So I'm not doing this, Hello. So I'm rewatching that because I got the whole thing on DVD. I had to get it. It's just too good. And to be honest, also one of my students, former students, plays the Queen Lagertha. She was her name is Catherine Winnick, and she's done quite a lot of work since then. But she was one of my speech students. Came to me to help get rid of her Ukrainian accent, and so I worked with her on and off for a long time. And well, she did that series. She did one called Big Sky, which ran for a couple of years recently.
Okay.
Probably would know her if you saw her, but I always like to see my students do well, and I like to watch them because one of my specialties is elimination of accents and dialects and teaching accents and dialects. And overall Shakespeare and vocal production, that sort of thing. So I'm also an instructor. I've never been to college, but I've taught at 5 colleges and trade schools.
Wow. Okay.
What I learned as an accent and dialect specialist and a phoneticist and a linguist, all of these things I've learned, I did privately. I didn't go to a university, so I was being taught by people that were university trained, and some of them big time, like NYU,
So do you have like certificates or anything, or?
Nope. Everything I learned was private, and the thing is, my instructors were always impressed by me to the point that they asked me to come and teach. And then I started teaching sort of on my own too. That's why, as I say, I've never been to college, but I taught 4 years at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. The professor of drama and speech of Cal State University, Los Angeles, worked with me, and then asked me to come and teach there for a whole bunch of one-acts that he did.
Okay.
Also, the professor of drama at San Diego State University worked with me on a production and asked me to come and coach his actors for a production of The Grapes of Wrath, where they had to be Oklahomans, and so I needed to go in and help them with that. And again, these are universities, colleges. I was on the speech department staff for Los Angeles Broadcasting School for 2 years. One of the NYU instructors that I worked with remembered I was a phoneticist and brought me in. And these are all people that I impressed greatly, that taught me in the past, asked me to come in to teach. I never said to one of them ever that I had no degree. I just kept my mouth shut. Which is it's an important thing to remember. If it doesn't matter, then shut up. You don't have to talk about it.
Don't bring it up. Don't say nothing, because that's when it start mattering. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. And the fact that I did so well, and even the students were calling me the best teacher in the place. Clearly, I was doing something right. But I've always been a little bit conscious of the fact that as a teacher, I don't have a teaching credential. But I know what I'm doing. And everyone says the same thing. We're getting so much from you and we're learning this, and that's terrific. It makes sense like it's never made sense before. These are all the things a teacher wants to hear. Meantime, I wish I had gone to college and I had the library of books you get, because I would love to have that full library of textbooks that you buy when you are learning the skill. because then having that sort of background, having those things at my fingertips would have been great. But it still ends up being much the same thing. If I'm going to teach someone to get rid of sibilant S, I check and see if they have a lower thrust like that. A lot of times that's what creates that. I can spot that right away. I know what's going on, and I know why they have a sibilant S. And so I can work on helping them to correct that. Much the same another instructor would who had 5 or 6 years in college. I just kind of skipped to the chase, But yes, it would have been nice to have the scholarship, to be able to say, yes, I have the scholarship and the learning and spent the time and did the what do you call them, labs, and did my own research into a particular kind of speech problem, or for that matter, into linguistics. When there are
like a
languages,
thesis or something like that.
yeah, along the lines of doing a final paper where I actually put it down and had them judge it and all that sort of thing. It would have been kind of nice. On the other hand, I hated school, so when I finished high school, I said, I'm out of here. I never meant to be a teacher. It just happens that I turned out to be good at it.
See, sometimes I feel like sometimes we could be good teachers and not even know it, because I just recently had a moment at work today where I had to literally teach a lot of my security guards some stuff that I thought they had already known, but apparently they didn't know. And the fact that I was able to kind of just teach them this within like 5 minutes, when I'm like, dang, you guys didn't know this for 3 months. Like, you know what I mean? But being able to actually explain it and walk them through it and actually get them to the point where they like, okay, you can leave and I can do this without you being here. And that's the main thing for me personally. You know what I mean?
Amen to that, because when it comes to actually teaching something, just because you know how to do it doesn't mean you know how to teach it.
Or explain it for them to understand.
That's right. There are things that I, as an actor, knew how to do because I'd learned the skills. I learned to do the accents, the dialects, the phonetics. Then I was called upon to teach someone else. And I discovered that almost no one has the kind of ear that they need for this. They don't get, they can, especially among Americans. And even rarer, can you hear the sound and reproduce it? And that's extremely unusual. I didn't think a thing of it. The first time I went in to begin teaching at the academy, I started working on an Irish dialect with the students. And I was noticing they weren't able to do the sounds. And I thought, first my thought was, what am I doing wrong? But then I realized most of them simply didn't have an ear for that. In America, especially because we're monolingual, we're not taught to be sophisticated in our speech. It's know just enough to express yourself and be understood. But in terms of actually having any lilt or any music in your voice to make the sound pleasanter, to make the sound easier to remember, we don't learn how to do that. We only learn the very, very basic things, which is why when you hear most American actors, they have a pretty flat delivery. They aren't taught to be more sophisticated in the way they send their voices up and down and around. I'm sometimes accused of being Irish and sometimes accused of being English, because I was taught by English actually Englishmen from, from the Old Vic and places like that. So when they were teaching me, like I just did, teaching me to move my voice around like that, if you start thinking of my voice on a musical scale, you'll see I'm using the whole thing. Most Americans use the 2 or 3 notes in the middle, and they don't do very much at all. And that's the way I teach, by the way. This is a free lesson for you. Okay.
This is free lessons for us all, because everyone listening to us get this. Okay.
Yeah, I was working with an actress, and we were at a convention together, and she said, well, I have to go to my room and record an audition. She goes, if I do that, would you direct me? And I said, well, sure. I hadn't met her before, but turns out as we all find out, we've done a lot of projects together, but we never worked together. So the rap party for Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. We had about 30 or 40 of us in there, and we all said, "Were you in this? Oh my God, what part did you play?" Because you're never in the booth together, so you're working alone on a show. For all you know, there's nobody else.
Wow. So you could be in a room full of people on the same show and not even really know.
Oh yeah, that's how I've met several people that way. A friend of mine, a good actor, is John Allen.
Yes.
That's how I met John. We were actually on that series together, and we started talking to each other. And he's at the party, and he said, "I've always wanted to meet you. I love your work," and we've gotten to be very, very good friends now. Anyway, I went to the hotel room with the actress, and she, I went ahead and I brought equipment. We set everything up for her to work. And she practiced the dialogue a couple of times. And I said, "Okay, I want you to think of vocal variety." And I gave her that example. You're using the 3 middle notes on a musical scale, and that's it. Your voice is no wider than that. I want all of it. Do you read music at all?
Oh, no. I've tried and I haven't really been able to learn it.
Because I sang in the opera company in San Diego, and I was in a church choir, a very good one, because most of us were in the opera company. We actually sang in church also.
Okay.
But also I was in a bunch of musicals in San Diego, and I sang in school. I learned a lot of the stuff I know simply by applying what they told me. So I look at that. I know what pianissimo is as opposed to piano. I know what a fermata is. These, in other words, all these different things that you encounter. So when you see the top of the musical scale, like that's the top note. No, perhaps they put another little line up there to put that it's even higher than you thought it would be. So I was telling her, I want you to use the entire scale, move your voice up and down. A strange thing happens when you lift your voice up to a note, or let's say, call it a pitch, or the verb would be lilting your voice, the way you lilt your voice up. It's strange. Emotions come with it. Okay. When you actually do that extra little something, it's almost as if your mind said, "I have to find a reason for doing that because it doesn't feel like it's natural to me." So it becomes natural because you start to express yourself differently, pitch-wise and all that. And suddenly, feeling again will come along with that. It may not be the right feeling, but it's an energy that you have that you didn't have before because you didn't have much variety, So I had her do her audition several different ways, moving her voice around, and you could see the lights came on, and the choices were there. All of these things that she found within the audition, within the reading, all came because she simply moved her voice around a lot more. By creating that framework, that vocal framework, the emotional frame came into play. So little things like that as an actor that teaches the way I do. And again, as I say, people often, accuse me of being English because I don't say a little, I say a bit. I say stop instead of stop, So there are things. Now, it's not the same thing, because if I was an Englishman, I would be speaking in this manner. So it's just that there are parts of my speech that sound like I'm a Brit. And the problem there is people can't figure out where I'm from, so they start taking those little tidbits and going, oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they'll say something like Australian, and I can kind of understand that. It's very far from the way I speak, but I kind of get it. But there was one guy that said, I don't know what made him think this, but I'd finished a sentence and he said, "You're Danish." I said,
Danish?
Not even close, You got to remember, I'm a country boy from Fargo, North Dakota. So when somebody makes a guess like that, they must be aliens that they're thinking this.
He's just looking around like, who are you talking about?
Yeah. One guy said, Australian. I said, where? Because that's not me,
It's so funny the way you break this down and everything. It kind of reminds me with my conversation I was talking with Terrence Stone. I don't know if you.
Oh, I know very well. Yeah, we work together a lot. Good guy, very good guy. Also, very good history buff.
Oh, he is amazing. when he came on, he was basically kind of explaining fluctuations and stuff like that, and he was talking about how he was like still able to kind of go into that younger fluctuation, and he was sounding like a baby and stuff like that, and I was like really shocked. I'm like, yeah, you can still pull that out at your age. That's good. That's amazing. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, there are vocal things that some actors are capable of doing. Like if I could do female voices, if I had that upper range and strong, very workable falsetto, I would rule the world because I could do female voices.
oh
I could
man,
do male voices with the different things I can do, because I'll take a voice of some kind and then just add a dialect or accent. That's another thing. I'm very lucky I can do that, and do it cold.
So you can just do that out of nowhere.
Yeah, and again, that was something I thought everybody could do. So if I encountered someone that couldn't, I'm thinking, I don't want to say what's the matter with you, but it just puzzled me. But then I discovered, yeah, that's unusual. And thank you, Mom and Dad. It's not because I'm special. I got that stuff from my mom and my dad. My dad for speech and accents, and my mom for music and pitch and all that's wonderful things. So I'm very lucky because I can do both. And I mean by that, hearing a sound and being able to duplicate it. And that it, in fact, is rather rare, which again, I didn't know, but it doesn't make me like some special person or whatever. It's just genes. Luckily, I got them both from my mom and dad.
For sure. It seemed like it was just a skill that you learned early on and was actually able to develop it, where a lot of people now are just learning that skill and trying to develop it, where you've already then excelled and become an expert at it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm kind of hearing.
Yeah, that's something that's served me well. And an audition that I recorded yesterday, I did the voice of the narrator, and then I did the voice of another character where I put on kind of an East Texas dialect, And so I did that because they said we could have the same actor do both roles, but he has to sound very different. And, when I do the voice like this for a narration, then I turn around like this, so you don't think it's the same fella, do you?
Nah, that was totally good. I give you props for that. But based on just that dialect, that doesn't sound like that's for an anime. It sounds like that might be for a different type of project.
This is for a video game, actually.
Oh, for a video game? Okay.
Oh yeah, the anime, it depends on what they want. If it takes place in a certain region or whatever, they will typically want to have that. I'm called upon to do all sorts of weird things. I was the zombie voice in Resident Evil 5, but I spoke Swahili. Now, Swahili is very close to Zulu, and I do speak some Zulu. I've studied it, and I know something about the linguistics and the language and the language group and all that stuff. And Swahili is a dialect of the same language group as Zulu. They're both dialects of Bantu. And this is where the scholarship comes in, see. So I got to the session, and they handed me this stuff, and they said, will you be able to do this? And again, it was a Swahili, but I had to do it with a zombie voice too. So you have to mix all that stuff in and do the language,
I'm trying to see how you even do that, because do they even say like normal words?
Yeah, I wouldn't think zombies would speak any language, but in this particular case, yeah, they were speaking Swahili. And so when I looked at the sheet of paper, they said, could you handle that? And I looked at it, I said, this is like spot on Zulu, except Zulu has because of the proximity to the bush people. You remember the ones that go and all that as part of their language. That's part of the language of Zulu, that just because of the proximity and intermarriage, that entered parts of Zulu. It's used in that, and it's not the case with Swahili. Swahilis are far north of that. So it's a matter of proximity, having the Bantu language close to the Khoisan language, which is the name of the group, the language group of the people that are Bushmen. So that little bit came in there. But in terms of the actual words that are written out in a certain Zulu and Swahili are the same. So I came in, I went ahead and I was speaking Swahili in some, can't remember which voice I did as a zombie, but I did those things together, and the director was just.
He probably was shocked as heck, because I know I would be. I'd be like,
Sometimes I go in and I knock it out of the park in ways that they did not know I was going to do, and that they just throw it at me and I do it. So now that doesn't mean that you always succeed. There are times when I've done sessions where, let's say if I was doing Leomon or something from Digimon, and I was booked for an hour and a half, and I finish in 45 minutes, an hour, so we finished early. I said, okay, we have a couple of roles we want to pick up, and they have to do that with the actors within the series. If you have a character that appears in one episode and has only 3 cues, you're not going to have auditions for that sort of thing.
For sure.
It's not worth the time and the money. You have to also rent the studio and all that. So they said, no, this guy's a cab driver. We'll have you pick him up. Once in a while, they will bring up a character and they're looking for a particular kind of voice, and I don't come up with it. We give it, and they're fine. They go, yeah, we threw it out to you, and
we'll get you next time.
Yeah, other times though, I'll just pick up a voice immediately and they know what to do. I also have a whole bunch of voices in my front pocket that I call stock voices.
Okay.
They're in stock and ready to go. I just need to throw them out. I know how to use them.
I feel like so you just have them prepared just in case somebody be like, give me this or that, and then you're like, okay, I got it right here for you. I feel like
they'll do that. So this is an older guy, and he's in his rocking chair on the porch, and people are asking him questions or he's saying something, whatever. You'll come up with something like that, which is fairly easy. On the other hand, when they come up with a Digimon that you've never seen before, and the face and the lines and stuff like that maybe don't support a choice that you can make right away. Or sometimes I come up with a voice, but I can't maintain it.
Okay.
That'll happen, and because the reason I say stock voices, these are things that I practice. I have dozens of them, voices that I practice and keep practiced.
There's one, that this would be the kind of guy from the Bronx, and I don't want to say what kind of work he does because it's let's just say it's not above board. It ain't legal.
So that is a character that I called Angelo Cuspadori. I've never used it, and I first recorded that voice 45 years ago. I've never used it.
But man,
I'm ready. I'm ready to use them anytime you want. But that would be if you're doing like New York Mafia type stuff. Okay,
that'd be the guy that he comes to visit you and says, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, this is a nice store you got. It'd be a pity if something happened to it,
that's the kind of character that, to use the term a gumba, that you might have from the old neighborhoods, that sort of thing, right? And again, I've never used that voice. It's just one that I developed way back then, and that's just it. If a project doesn't come up that needs a voice like that, then you don't do it. That makes sense. But you want to stay sharp with everything you're doing. You want to keep all of these things in practice and ready to go, because again, you really honestly don't know when it's going to happen.
For sure. But I'm going to go ahead and list out the movies that I've recently watched, and then we're going to jump right into our interview.
Okay.
For the movies that I recently just watched are the Ring movies. This is a series of horror movies that I recently got into. They're basically all center around this videotape that if you watch, you get a phone call right after telling you 7 days, and you have to basically get somebody else to watch this movie, because if not, this girl comes out of the screen and takes you. It's really good. It's surprising because I've never seen them before. I like the original 2 movies because they're actually based off of these Japanese. They're adaptations from Japanese movies. So it's really good, but the newest one that they got out is not particularly my favorite because they kind of rebooted it and changed some things, but it's really interesting. If you ever get a chance, you should check them out.
All right. Okay.
And for anime movie wise, I just recently watched the Dragon Ball Z Broly movie. Basically, they bring Broly back, and instead of him being in his regular form, they basically did a what is it, genetic engineering, and basically made a mutation of them and everything, and it was crazy. But it was a nice movie though. Good Dragon Ball movies. The older ones, they're all like 50 to 54 minutes, so they're really easy to watch.
That's one thing I do like about those things is, you mentioned the Japanese and being adaptations, etc. I have a very, I don't want to say super, but pretty impressive collection of Japanese films, Kurosawa and Ubo and Kobayashi. The ones everybody does, which is, Seven Samurai. But there's another one called Kagemusha, which means Shadow Warrior. Terrific film. And most of those are not quick watches. You have to be ready to devote 3+ hours. Like a classic example is Seven Samurai. If you were raised on movies of the week in America, and you're used to commercial breaks where you can go potty and the movie's not going to be more than 2 hours. You can see when Americans go to see a European style film when they go to the theater, around 2 hours, they start getting really restless. Because we are raised with the movie of the week, and it's 2 hours, again, with breaks. And if you're actually watching a European style film, or that matter, Mexican cinema is the same way. They do a European style. They take the time to make the messages known, what they want to have, show the pictures for the amount of time they want. And Americans are going, well, come on, edit. Okay, jump to the next thing. And it's actually, without knowing that that's the way you grew up watching movies, you're reacting as though you did know. Like they should have cut a minute ago. And Kurosawa, a great example. He would use this amount of time to establish what he needed to establish. He holds a picture longer. As Americans, we're going, what? It's just a camera pointing at something. Okay. It is establishing a mood and a feel. And again, we don't know that as people that watch the typical movie of the week. If Kurosawa needs this much time, that's how much time he takes. And very often what happens is it's this long and everybody's getting impatient, and then suddenly somebody comes walking into frame. Aha! There's the payoff. Knowing European style films and knowing Japanese style films, a lot of times the Japanese filmmakers learned by watching European films. And they got that sense. But also, if it takes this much time to tell the story, tell the story. I would not want to see an edited version of Seven Samurai or Kagemusha or Hidden Fortress. I would not want those stories to be cut up. Tokyo Story, a drama, that's a long film that's character driven. It's about the people in it. It's not the action, So you have to be patient and you have to understand the cinematic value. What is the director going for? Why is this the way it is? So when you let yourself learn, in a way you're teaching yourself, but letting yourself learn by letting them teach you what this is about, you start to get, oh, that's it. That's it. And if you study it carefully, you'll see something change within the picture. It's the camera just pointed in one direction for one length of time. And you think it's just holding there. Watching Seven Samurai, there's one spot where a guy is looking into the bandits' hideout. And he looks at a woman. And they just hold the shot and hold the shot. But if you watch carefully, there's a little breeze moving a curtain. And then as it gets high enough, the light shines in, and it's his wife who was stolen by bandits. If you don't spend the full minute or a minute and a half watching that one shot, you miss that part.
Okay. Dang,
that's when you see. Yeah, see, that's when you see what Kurosawa had in mind. That's what you see why the character reacted the way he did. And that's all a matter of letting yourself learn or teach. Hang on just 1 second, please. Okay, it said 2 new emails, and neither one had anything to do with the casting. So, oh well.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's part of the life you have to lead. You have to watch for crap all the time. So, and it's not too late. They said recording today or tomorrow. I don't even know if they've even chosen the actor yet. So,
Fingers crossed. I believe in you.
yeah, thank you. Okay, so the Japanese horror films. Okay, this was based on that. Excellent, excellent.
All right, now moving on to our interview.
Okay.
Well, my first question I wanted to ask you, one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on was basically to talk about your experience working in Naruto.
Okay.
You basically play one of my favorite characters, the Nine Tails. I just wanted to see your perspective of working on that project, and how would you describe the character you play?
Well, overall, Naruto has been an extremely satisfying experience because for as long as it went on, my feeling was we always had good scripts. As complex and time-consuming as it is, it does follow a very good character arc and a good story arc.
For sure.
You can see it in the relationships. One thing I love about my relationship with Naruto was we began, even though I was imprisoned, I had an almost predatory attitude toward Naruto.
Yep.
He can get me out. He can let me out. All right. And I'm going to bribe him. I would say,
Naruto, give me your chakra, and I will give you power.
And the anime bead of sweat, he would always be looking up and scared, and they'd run off. And that was his maturation. He actually grew up a lot there because he did not succumb to the temptation. Even though I was trying to get him to buckle under, and no, he actually held on. Now, the nice thing was at the end of the scene, after you run away, they would always cut back to me, and I'd go, because I knew the time would come. But that had a lot to do with why Naruto grew up the way he did. As we later on became allies and friends, yes, we fought together. Yes, we had a relationship that kind of grew for both of us. I loved the part, though, where we got to the point where we were essentially like an old married couple.
Yeah.
I got to say my favorite line in the entire series, and all the tough stuff I did from Naruto and Shippuden and Boruto. My favorite line was when we were arguing. I don't know what it was about. I can't remember, because context, you forget about that, but you remember the lines, right? So he just wouldn't shut up. I don't know what it was about, but he would not shut up. And we were back and forth arguing. And finally, I just turned to him and I said,
"Knock it off, you little bastard."
And that was my favorite line in the entire series. I said, what a moment we just had. So we had to take a 10-minute break to stop laughing. For me, the experience was wonderfully satisfying because we got to see from A to Z the relationship between me and Naruto. And then when my time came, you have seen it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That
Okay.
was literally going to be the next part of my question.
Yeah, because when I tell people, well, at the end, and they haven't seen Boruto yet, so I shut my mouth. I said, I don't want to ruin it for you. One of the most satisfying things about the project was that it was so well written. And that's very evident in my final few lines, because they just tear your heart out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was coming. The director and the engineer and I held it together for the whole session. And I signed my paperwork and timesheet and union job, so you got all this stuff to fill out, right? And then I went to my car and I cried.
Wow.
I absolutely cried, because that was a part of my life for 17 years. Imagine, suddenly the character is gone. And so that was very, very tough. And most of my fans have much the same reaction. They said, God, the way it ended with Naruto screaming up the sky for you to come back, and they just hold it on that blank space, and because you are gone, everybody said it was killing me. It was killing me. I said, yeah, I mean, you know, maybe other actors are telling the truth, but I think everyone's lying if they tell you that they don't get attached to a role. You do. I do. You know, it was hard to lose Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts. That was gut-wrenching because it looked as though my character was about to take a certain turn to change course, and this would be a whole nother
version of them.
part. Yeah, this would be something about Xemnas that we didn't know before. My God, oh, look at this! But no, gone. That was it. That's why it just tears your heart out because now I want to learn what. No, he's gone. You know. So one of my fans. Oh yeah, one of my fans said this so well. She sent me a message on Twitter, and she told me, if you had said to me 2 weeks ago that I would have cried at the end of Kingdom Hearts, I would have laughed at you. I said, well, I finished the game last night. Thanks for turning me into a sobbing mess. Because, yeah, it just tore her to pieces because that's the way that ending went. It was gut-wrenching.
Well, that just lets you know that your acting was amazing.
Well, yeah, that's very satisfying, yeah.
I don't know if you keep up with the Boruto manga, but you probably will be coming back to the role eventually.
I heard something about a young version. I don't know anything about it. And contrary to popular belief, we don't get the down low, the low down. We don't get the skinny. We don't get the gossip. Nobody tells us. We find out what it's about when they call us to book us. That's all. So it's not. Yeah, we don't have a secret newsletter that all the cast members get and nobody else knows about. No. It was like with Kingdom Hearts, we waited 10 years for 3 to come out. I found out I was recording like 4 or 5 days. My agent contacted me.
Wow. You're
No
like,
idea.
don't plan nothing on Friday.
Exactly right. You have to kind of keep yourself open, you know.
But my next question I want to ask you is, when was the moment you realized you wanted to be an actor, and what contributed to that?
I used to play street football. I grew up in San Diego, neighborhood called Claremont Mesa, but everybody just says Claremont. And the guy across the street was our quarterback. And I remember one day he was talking about being in drama and doing a play and how much fun it was. And something kind of, maybe it was the fact that it was really down to the bone for him. That struck me. I'd like to try it. Now, I was painfully shy. I wouldn't talk. I wasn't athletic. I was kind of the same height as everybody, but shorter than some. My hair was long and curly. And so even though everybody was envious of it, they would make fun of me for that too. And the girls thought I was a goof, you know, all this stuff. And so I was afraid to even talk, especially if they heard my voice. They would hear this voice coming out of that little, you know, goofy guy, and sometimes make fun of me for that reason. But something got me up on stage. I had to get up there. And so my first play was in a drama class in 9th grade. And then the first time I did a play on stage was called Which is the Way to Boston, a one-act play that I did at my freshman year. And the 2 performances, the second performance, I forgot one of my lines, and I kept switching back. I went home and kicked a box for like 3 hours in the backyard. I just kept saying the lines over and over again. And of course, I never went back. It was a one-act play in, you know, basically a junior high school and a high school. You know? But something about that, I have to do it. It's one of the few things I know for certain in my life. I know down to the marrow of my bones, all the way down to the bottom of my heart, being an actor is what I need to be doing, and I want to be doing. And it's hard to explain, but it's like I tell people, if you really want to go into theater and you really want to perform, etc., if you know down to the marrow of your bones, and you know that this is the way you're going to feed your heart and your mind and your spirit, then go for it. Otherwise, don't. A lot of people say, well, it sounds like it's fun. Yeah, it is when we work, And well, voiceover, I mean, it sounds like that'd be like a cool thing to do. It's a hard thing to learn how to do, and it's a very difficult thing to stay with. And you will burn yourself out if you're not dedicated to it already. Any acting, any choices I can make, I always go for them if I can. Schedule-wise, of course, and life-wise, is it something I can do? But it's something that for me, I knew from a very, very young age, there's nothing else I want to do. I would kind of like to be an archaeologist, but oh well,
See,
that would be the other. That's where I would go. Da, 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 da,
See, me personally, I've still been trying to figure out what I'm trying to do. Like, what is my main thing, my purpose of being alive type thing. And well, this podcast has really been giving me new experiences, because one of the main things I always wanted to work on is being more of a public speaker, being able to get in front of people and speak, because being a comedian is part of like something I've always wanted to do. I don't know if I'm truly funny or not, but this is something I've always wanted to do. So it's like I'm still in that field of trying to figure out what I want to do, and doing these voice acting interviews has also made voice acting seem interesting to me too. So it's like we just trying to pick and figure out what we are meant to be, and taking that time. And I'm still in that moment myself.
Oh, sure. And don't rush yourself, because life is full of people who spent 35 and 40 years doing something to make a living, and they're fried. They're absolutely fried up here. And it's not something I would say is their fault. Because are you going to wait until you're 50 years old until you finally figure out? Well, you can't do that. Real life doesn't allow that. Okay.
Yep.
I wish.
For my next question I want to ask you is, I just recently did a review over the first 20 episodes of the Digimon Adventure anime. I wanted to ask you, because you talked about it recently, how was it being in that series? You got any favorite parts? I will say, being an adult and going back and kind of watching it, I will say it is a lot. It's a little bit more kiddish than I thought it was going to be, but
yeah,
very interesting show.
Yeah, it makes the impression on children at a very, very young age, first and second grade, and they still talk about it and remember it. But yeah, as an adult, you go back and you're like, okay, that was kind of like primary school stuff, wasn't it? I adored working on the show. The scripts were wonderful. The directors, many times, were also actors on the show. So we all had that in common. They knew what I was going through as an actor in the booth, and they knew how to write for that reality. They know that these many flaps are in the lip sync, so I need to write it for this amount of time. Rather than wait for the actors to kind of make up something or correct it, so to speak,
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Being in that environment where the actors were the directors were the actors, and the characters were well etched. I loved Leomon, the hero, but my favorite character of all was Wormmon. My sweet little guy that you want to pick him up and love him and take care of him. Everybody picked on him, and that's the way I did the role, because I was always kind of shaking a little bit like this in my voice, because I didn't know, people were always mad at me about something, So that character had a lot of pathos, and his unconditional love for Ken, and sticking with him no matter how badly Ken treated him. These are things that stayed with fans, and even to this day they talk about it, that they learned a lot about friendship and the way the friends on the show stuck together. No matter what happens, well, we're going to go and we're going to help them. We can't let this happen. We're going to get a lot of kids learned friendship and loyalty from that show.
For sure.
And maybe they wouldn't have learned it otherwise, or maybe they would have learned it otherwise. But it was right there for them to see. This is like the band of brothers and sisters, so to speak, in the show. If there's a problem, let's take care of it. Not I'm going to take care of it, but let's solve this problem. Let's do it. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole show, and it still resonates with adults and children today.
For sure, because one of my friends that I podcast with a lot, he's a huge Digimon fan. He's watched the series multiple times, seen the movies. I know he's trying to get I think his name is Seth. He voices the main character in Digimon. I can't think of his last name right now at the moment, but I know he's been trying to get an opportunity to talk to him, and I know that would be amazing. Personally, I've been trying to get to the point where I can get to watch the whole series, so I can be able to be more knowledgeable about what's going on and everything. Because when I was younger, instead of Digimon, I used to watch Pokemon, which is so crazy because like they're pretty.
Okay, I'm signing off. I'm signing off. No, well, just remember Digimon rules, and we'll get along fine. Okay?
Oh, for sure. I wish I would have took the time to watch Digimon for sure, because it really resonates with me. But that's one thing I wish I could go back and redo.
Yeah.
But my next question I want to ask you is, because you want another one of my favorite shonen animes, and it actually took me when I looked at your IMDb, because I missed it the first time. But you were actually in Bleach. You played Espada number 10, Grimmy.
Yammy Realgo.
Oh, Yammy. Yes, Yammy. I said Grimmy. I mean Yammy.
And it was supposedly Espada number 10, but the one was artificially put there.
Yes.
I was a Cerro. And the Cerro attack is the best one. Now, they didn't, even though that was from Spanish folklore, they didn't have me do it Spanish. I was Yami Realgo. This is the way I played the rule. Nothing Spanish. I said the name because I speak a fair amount of Spanish, so I would say the name with the accent.
Okay.
But they wouldn't have me actually do that. They just wanted me the big, ugly, vicious, brutal monster, which I said, okay, I can do that. I have the voice for you too. And they said, that's it, go ahead. Yeah.
So did you think it was cool when he went from number 10 to actually being like the strongest one actually?
Yeah, I like that part. I like the way the story moved along that way, because you could almost see it coming, almost,
Yes.
And it started to explain some of the things that happened in the past and why I was in the forefront a lot of times in the violence, and I would reappear at certain parts of the series. Once you found out that he was actually had the Cerro attack, you went, okay, so this guy figures into this whole plot line a lot bigger than I thought he did. Because again, that was an artificial number 10. In fact, he was the Cerro, the zero attack, as they call it.
Which I think is pretty cool, because like right after he does that whole reveal, you get him fighting Kenpachi and Byakuya, which to me is crazy. The fact that he was able to even take on two captains, which you can argue the two captains was kind of playing around with them, but I thought that was pretty cool. The fact that we get to see that type of fight, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Byakuya just kicks butt, I like that element of the story, is when they match people up that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to fight, or maybe they're in different places, and why would they ever cross paths? But they do, and then it happens. I love that,
For sure.
And I always love that one of the part of the series when the guy would hold the sword up and say, "Scatter."
Man, I'd say I think one thing Bleach has that does amazing is their transformations. When they about to transform, and they'd be like Bankai and all that, amazing scenes. I think those are great. So how did you feel hearing the series was coming back?
Well, I feel a lot better if I was cast in it, but
I knew you were gonna say that.
Well, yeah, and all of us do that. They say, "What's your favorite role?" I said, "The one they're paying me for." What was your favorite part of the show? When the checks cleared, And speaking as actors, and because we're thinking in terms of course, we want to do this as a living, and we want to make a life for ourselves as performers, as actors, as directors, etc. So that is a true answer for us. But I would dearly love if they brought something back that I was in, because I was Grand Fisher at the beginning,
For sure. Yep.
that very little, not a lot of work there, but if the character came
Very
back,
important character though. Like,
an important character, so many things established at the beginning. And so then, as I go rifling up into the sky and taunting and defiantly saying stuff, whatever, these are all parts of the show that I would think it'd be nice if the character came back. In the new series, you don't know. They might have anime from way back when, and I suddenly get a call or an email saying, okay, that guy you did about 20 years ago, well, here he is. That has happened to me. I've had characters where I did a show 15 years ago, and I get an email from the studio saying, well, that one character you played with, he's in this one. Okay.
you
Make
think
sure
you
to
can
play
still do
this.
the voice?
Oh yeah, and still, one thing is I take care of my instrument.
Okay.
I work this every day. I don't smoke anything. I don't eat the wrong kind of foods. You eliminate cheese. You eliminate sodas, colas, and stuff like that. Chocolate. These are not things that you put on your voice. So I still sound the same way, and I can still do the same voices. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be 70 years old. If you
Wow.
take care of the instrument, and you'll last a long time. I know people that don't, that abuse, and a lifetime of whiskey and cigars and cigarettes. Well, it's going to show, and you won't sound the way you did 30 years ago. Sorry about that. So,
I will say I never would have thought you were 70, so you
appreciate that.
had it well, man.
I feel. First thing in the morning, I feel like I'm 70 when I try to get out of bed. But as the day
I
goes
feel
on,
72, like when I'm
Yeah.
getting up.
I felt 70 when I was 30, because there were some days, But yeah, I exercise, take care of myself, do ellipticals and speed walking and some light lifting and things like that. So you keep yourself in reasonably good shape, and everything will keep working for you. But this right here, take care of the instrument, especially. Because everything I could do from a wheelchair if I had to,
For sure.
But again, knock on wood, that doesn't become the case for me. So.
Well, we're winding down to our last 3 questions.
Okay.
For my next question, I want to ask you is, what emotion do you find hard to portray with just your voice?
Joy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard that one. Why?
When it comes to things like a deeply felt emotion like sorrow and sadness and heartbreak and that sort of thing, things happen to your voice. And remember what I said about when you pitch your voice up, the emotions come with it.
Mm-hmm.
When I do those things vocally, it triggers the emotions.
Okay.
What is hard to do is to sound joyful without sounding goofy.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because a lot of times they go, well, no, I mean, you're happy, you should be joyous and laughing, and then you start sounding silly and goofy, and they go, well, that's not what we're after. Yeah, it's not as easy to do as you might think. Yeah, you can have tears of joy, and that also affects the sound of your voice. These things happen too, but that for me is difficult. Anger, I can just flick to that quickly. Sadness and heartbreak and stuff like that. Also, at my age, I've experienced quite a few things. One thing that makes you a better actor is as you get older, you just go through shit, and so as long as you keep yourself open to these things, they become tools for you. They become what makes you grounded as an actor.
For sure. For my next question, I want to ask you is, you also been a part of one of my other favorite series, because I've always been a huge Dragon Ball Z fan.
Okay.
You were actually in Dragon Ball Super. You played, I want to make sure I get the right name right. Sorbet, one of Frieza's.
Sorbet.
Sorbet. That's how I thought it was pronounced. But when I was seeing how it was spelled, I'm like, am I pronouncing it wrong?
Well, see, I didn't know the show per se. I would channel flip and I would see it and see the battles and stuff like that. But I didn't know from start to finish who was whom to what person and why and all that. So if you don't know all that stuff, a character will suddenly appear and you don't know how they fit in. And therefore, I had never heard the name before. So I went to the studio and I asked, is it Sorbet? They said yes. And I went, okay, get 50% chance of getting it right.
So
but,
how did you enjoy working in the series and the character?
Well, I liked working on that one a lot because as tough as he tries to be, as tough as the character wants to be, it's Lord Frieza, Vegeta, how are you? Oh, I'm so good to see you. And you little bootlicker, so and characters are like that are fun because you go from one vocal choice to another in almost violent ways. It's suddenly hugely different here, and then suddenly you're being a toady and trying to kiss somebody's butt and that sort of thing. And then with another character, on the other hand, you become defiant and bossy and that sort of thing. So it really demands that you go all over the place, and that's part of the fun of doing the voice work.
Yes, his character was so interesting when you see him come in and he's basically taking over the Frieza force after Frieza had died. So he's basically managing everything. And then his big goal is we need to bring him back so we can actually be as powerful as we once was. But then Frieza comes back, and now you're not in the same role you were in, more. You know what I mean? You're not running nothing. You know what I mean? You just became an assistant. So
hard to let go of the authority,
Man, then you have your one scene where you're actually trying to help Frieza and do something, and you end up dead. So it's oh man.
Yeah, interesting thing there. They didn't tell me it was coming, so I got into the studio. And I had 3 cues. Getting shot. Second cue, Lord Frieza. Third cue, ugh. When I fell to the ground. And I said to the director, hey, I'm sorry, should we have told you? Yeah. We do get attached to these characters. I get attached anyway, I kind of like this guy. I walk in and I'm done in 5 minutes flat because that's all I did was kill him.
We're man, I get attached to anything that I get paid for. I feel that.
Of course we're there for a job, and that's all wonderful. But you get to really liking these characters, especially when the writing is good, because that allows you to free yourself as an actor when you're not worried about the damn words you're saying, because sometimes that is a problem.
For sure. And for my last question, I want to ask you is basically, what are your remaining goals or aspirations within the field of voice acting?
I would like to book one lead character, one more. And the months of doing that, and then the years afterwards of enjoying things about it. Like when I go to conventions and people want to talk to me about Cowboy Bebop, and they want to talk to me about my first series, Robotech, when they want to talk to me about Digimon. I love that part. So I would like to get that one that has all the meat to it and all that sort of thing. I don't know if you know it or if you're a One Piece fan. I'll be the voice of Rock's Xebec. He's coming back from the past. Okay. So now I don't know how much there's going to be, and they don't know either. The manga is the manga, and that's fine. It happens the way it happens in the manga. What they will be animating in Japan might be something completely different. That might be a much smaller role. And then it's about a year before we actually get it here in the States with the translation. Sure. So that's not an official timetable, shall we say. It's just kind of the way it works out. Manga to the US is about a year. When all is said and done, they might have me chopped way down, but they said it is a number of episodes and it's central to the story and explaining things about Blackbeard and that sort of stuff, right?
Yes, it's explaining a lot. Like they're doing it right now in One Piece. Like it's going to be a nice role.
Yeah. So my guess is that it's going to be pretty involved, and I'm honored because I didn't audition. They simply asked for me. The director asked for me to do the role, and it's such an honor to have that happen,
For sure.
But I'm looking forward to that. But it would be nice, I think, to book a brand new series and have a lead role that is you get a chance to make it unforgettable. And again, afterwards, when this series has played and people have watched it, and you get to do panels and talk about the character, and you get to meet people at conventions and answer questions as we are today. These things that made an impression on you, and there are reasons why the questions come up the way they do because of your experience with it. I want to be in that situation with a new series. Now, I'm still doing other things that I can't talk about because of the NDA. So I keep on doing stuff. So it's not that I'm waiting. I'd like a new series because I'm not working. No, I am working. It's on various different things. But it would be nice to have, like a lead in a series and X number of episodes, and just have that to work on and to be involved with. Beyond that, I'd like to have some of the series I've worked in the past come back. Some can't because people have passed away. The manga artist for Berserk.
Oh man!
Yeah, he when he passed away, we had done season 1, and there's the old saying we have about film: when something is finished, they would say it's in the can, because in the canisters that they used to make, they would hold film in. They shortened that to can. They say, it's all finished, it's in the can. They send it off to be edited or whatever. There wasn't enough to put in a new can to have a second season for Berserk.
Oh.
So that kind of was the end of that. And I didn't know the man personally. I just know that his work in the manga and the what do they call it, graphic novel style that he wrote, there wasn't enough really ongoing where they could put another series together. So that's something I wish we could do, but that's not going to happen. I would love to see more Digimon coming out. There is supposed to be work coming out, but the owners of the property, we call them the client. The client wants to have all brand new voices for all the characters, even the ones that are familiar. Now, yeah, that's it's bothersome, but it's also dangerous, because if they ever cast anyone to play Wormmon other than me, I'll track the guy down and murder him in his sleep. Because that's my role. Now, it isn't my role.
On that.
Role, okay? So nobody gets to be Wormmon except me. I feel kind of the same way about Leomon,
Well, you should feel the same way about the Nine Tails. I don't want to hear no one else do the Nine Tails but you.
First of all, most people can't do that voice anyway. But as long as I'm able, I will do that voice. And I know all the people involved. They'd better call me, or somebody's going to be bleeding to death in an alley somewhere. But you didn't hear me say, oh my God, is this being recorded? Oh yeah.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode. I want to say it was a pleasure talking to you. I had a lot of fun. I want to say that I appreciate all the amazing work that you have done throughout the years. You have brought some of my favorite characters to life, and I just want to give you your flowers on that.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot.
And with that, we end today's episode. I want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. I had a lot of fun and learned so much more about the industry of voice acting, and hopefully you listeners did too. Before we close out, I just want to allow my guest the opportunity to plug himself, basically tell everybody where they can find you, if you have any social media or anything.
Okay. Yeah, folks, you can find me on Instagram and Meta and Facebook and Twitter. I'm on Twitter also. Be looking for me in One Piece. I don't know when. It might be 6 months. It might be a year. But I have 4 projects I'm working on now, but I can't say anything about them. But to all of you, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being fans. and keeping the faith.
For sure. And I'll have all his links and stuff below. So if you guys want to send him any questions, tell him how you feel about him in Naruto, or how you think he's going to do in his new role in One Piece, everything will be below. And with that, I just want to say,
Adios. Take care.